At 19, she was forced to marry a Korean Mafia boss, but his wedding gift silenced everyone. Ji-yoon's wedding dress cost more than her father's funeral. She stood in the bridal suite, alone, staring at the hanbok her aunt had chosen. Silk the color of peonies, embroidered with phoenixes, traditional and expensive and utterly wrong. In the adjacent room, her family celebrated. Their debts erased. Their honor restored. Their 19-year-old niece sold. 3 days ago, her uncle had informed her she was getting married. 2 days ago, she'd met her husband-to-be for exactly 7 minutes in a hotel lobby. Long enough for Kang Min-suk to look at her with those dark, unreadable eyes and say, "You'll be taken care of." Not, "I'll take care of you." Not, "We'll figure this out together." You'll be taken care of. Like a problem. Like property. Through the window, Seoul stretched endless and indifferent. Somewhere down there, the Reaper of Gangnam was waiting to claim what her uncle had promised him. The door opened. It's time. It was always going to be time. Dear viewers, take a deep breath and get comfortable. Be sure to subscribe. What's coming is only the beginning. Let's go. Camera flashes erupted as she entered. The traditional processional music felt like a countdown. Every step down the aisle measured in heartbeats. She kept her eyes forward, trying not to see the faces. Some pitied her. Most envied her uncle's solution. All of them whispered. Then she saw him. Kang Min-suk stood at the altar in a black Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than her family's yearly rent. Tall, broad-shouldered, face carved into angles that photographs never quite captured. A scar traced his jawline, thin, precise, the kind you got from a knife, not an accident. His eyes were dark, unreadable, the kind that looked through people to assess threats and weaknesses. Ji-yoon's breath caught, not from attraction, from recognition of something predatory. This was a man who built an empire on fear, and she was about to become his wife. He didn't smile when she reached him, didn't offer his hand, just waited, still as stone, while her uncle, the man who'd sold her, walked her down the aisle and placed her hand in his. Min-suk's grip was careful, not gentle, just controlled, like he knew exactly how much pressure he was applying. The officiant began in Korean, words about honor and duty and eternal bonds. Ji-yoon barely heard. She was too focused on breathing, on standing, on not running. The hanbok felt suffocating. The room leaned in, 200 people watching her be given away. "Do you, Lee Ji-yoon, take Kang Min-suk as your lawfully wedded husband?" Her throat closed. She felt herself nodding, heard herself whisper something that might have been yes. It didn't matter. The answer had been decided before the question was asked. The officiant turned. "And do you, Kang Min-suk, take Lee Ji-yoon as your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was low, steady, carrying easily through the silent room. No hesitation. No emotion. Just fact. "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The words fell like a prison door closing. But Min-suk didn't kiss her, didn't turn to the audience. Instead, he gestured to someone in the front row, a man in his 40s, impeccably dressed, who approached with a leather portfolio. "Before we proceed," Min-suk said, his voice carrying through the ballroom, "I have a wedding gift for my wife." Ji-yoon's heart hammered. This wasn't part of the ceremony. The officiant looked confused. Her uncle shifted nervously. Min-suk's associate handed him the portfolio. He opened it, removed 3 documents, and held them up so both families could see. "The first," Min-suk said, his tone businesslike, almost bored, "is a restraining order against Lee Sang-woo and Park Mi-sun." He looked directly at Ji-yoon's uncle and aunt. "You will have no contact with my wife. No calls, no visits, no intermediaries. Violation will result in immediate legal action and, if necessary, less legal consequences." Gasps rippled through the room. Ji-yoon's uncle stood, face reddening. "You can't." 2 security guards materialized behind him. He sat. Min-suk continued as if he hadn't been interrupted. "The second document is the deed to a penthouse in Hanamdong. 3,000 square feet, unobstructed Han River view, fully furnished. Market value approximately 8 billion won. He turned to Ji-yoon for the first time, held her shocked gaze. "It's registered in your name. Yours alone. No one else has legal claim to it." The room erupted in whispers. Ji-yoon couldn't breathe. 8 billion won. Nearly $8 million. In her name. "The third," Min-suk said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "is a bank account containing 500 million won. For your independence. For whatever you choose to do with it." He handed her all 3 documents, his expression unreadable. You are my wife, Ji-yoon. Not my property. These documents ensure everyone understands the difference. Silence crashed over the ballroom like a wave. Ji-yoon stared at the papers in her hands. Property deed, bank statements, restraining orders. Her brain couldn't process it. This wasn't how this was supposed to work. She'd been sold. She was supposed to be trapped. But he was giving her freedom. Her uncle surged to his feet again. This is insulting. We had an agreement. Our agreement, Min-suk said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous, was that I would absolve your debt in exchange for this marriage. I have. What I do for my wife is none of your concern. He nodded to the guards. Escort him out. The family can stay if they behave. Ji-yoon watched, numb, as her uncle was removed from her wedding. Her aunt followed, hissing insults that faded down the hallway. The remaining guests sat frozen, uncertain whether to applaud or flee. Min-suk turned back to the officiant. You may continue. The man stammered through the closing remarks. Declared them married. Suggested they might seal it with a kiss. Min-suk offered Ji-yoon his arm instead. We should go. She took it because she didn't know what else to do. Her fingers clutched the documents, so hard they crumpled. They walked down the aisle together through a gauntlet of shocked stares and frantic whispers. Camera flashes exploded. Someone shouted a question. Min-suk ignored all of it, his hand steady at the small of her back, guiding her toward the exit. Outside the ballroom, he led her to a private elevator. His security detail materialized around them. 6 men in dark suits, earpieces, the subtle bulge of weapons. The elevator doors closed, sealing them in silence. You have questions, Min-suk said, eyes forward. Tomorrow. Ji-yoon found her voice. Why? Tomorrow. He didn't look at her. You've had enough for today. The elevator descended. Ji-yoon stared at the documents in her hands, trying to understand what had just happened. She'd walked into that ballroom as a sacrifice. She was leaving as what? A wife with a golden cage? A prisoner with nice furniture? Or something else entirely? Seoul at night was a river of neon and chrome. Ji-yoon watched it blur past the tinted windows of the Mercedes, the city she'd grown up in suddenly unfamiliar. Min-suk sat across from her. The sedan was large enough that they didn't have to touch. His attention on his phone, speaking rapid Korean to someone about shipping manifests and port access. Business. Always business. The driver and a security guard occupied the front seats. Classical music played softly through the speakers. Everything was expensive, controlled, perfect. Ji-yoon felt like she was in a movie about someone else's life. They crossed the Han River, lights reflecting off the water like scattered stars. Hanamdong rose ahead, Seoul's most exclusive neighborhood, where old money and new power built fortresses disguised as homes. The car climbed winding roads past guarded gates and high walls. Then they stopped. The mansion, because it was too large to call it anything else, rose from sculpted grounds like something out of an architectural magazine. Modern lines, floor-to-ceiling windows, white stone and dark wood. Minimalist. Elegant. Utterly unlike the traditional estates surrounding it. Welcome home, Min-suk said, the first words he'd spoken to her in 20 minutes. Home. The word felt foreign. A woman waited at the entrance. Late 50s, kind eyes, traditional hanbok in muted colors. She bowed as they approached. Welcome, Mr. Kong. Mrs. Kong. Mrs. Kong. Ji-yoon's stomach twisted. This is Mrs. Choi, Min-suk said. She manages the house. If you need anything, ask her. He turned to the older woman. Mrs. Choi, please show my wife to her quarters. I have work. He disappeared into the house before Ji-yoon could respond. Mrs. Choi smiled, warm and genuine. Come, dear. You must be exhausted. The interior matched the exterior. Open spaces, clean lines, art that probably cost more than cars. Everything in shades of cream, gray, and black. Beautiful. Cold. The kind of place you were afraid to touch. Mrs. Choi led her upstairs, down a hallway lined with closed doors. The house has 2 main wings, she explained. Mr. Kang's quarters are on the west side. Yours are here on the east. Separate. They had separate wings. Mrs. Choi opened a door, and Ji-yoon's breath caught. The suite was larger than her family's entire apartment. A bedroom with a king-sized bed dressed in ivory silk. A sitting area with a couch and chairs arranged around a fireplace. A desk by windows overlooking Seoul's lights. A walk-in closet already filled with clothes in her size. A bathroom in black marble and chrome. The entire east wing is yours, Mrs. Choi said. Bedroom, office, private terrace. No one enters without your permission. She walked to the door, pointed to the lock. It secures from the inside. Mr. Kong doesn't have a key. No one does. Ji-yoon stared at the lock. At this woman telling her she could keep her husband out of her own bedroom. I don't understand, she whispered. Mrs. Choi's expression softened. Mr. Kong is not what people think. Give him time. Give yourself time. She bowed slightly. I've left pajamas in the closet and toiletries in the bathroom. If you're hungry, the kitchen is stocked. I'll be in the staff quarters if you need anything. Then she was gone, and Ji-yoon was alone. She walked through the suite slowly, touching nothing, afraid it might disappear. The closet held designer clothes, casual, business, formal. All in her size, all expensive. The bathroom had luxury products she recognized from magazine advertisements. The terrace looked out over a garden with a pool, and beyond that, Seoul glittered like a promise. Ji-yoon returned to the bedroom, stared at the lock. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Please try to be grateful. He could have been cruel. Ji-yoon turned the phone off. She locked the door, heard the click echo in the silence. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, wedding documents spread beside her, and tried to understand what her life had just become. Morning came cold and bright. Ji-yoon woke disoriented, the ceiling unfamiliar, the bed too soft. Then she remembered. Married. Mansion. Kang Min-suk. She checked her phone. 6:47 a.m. 17 missed calls from her uncle. She deleted them without listening. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. She chose jeans and a cashmere sweater, trying to feel normal in designer fabric. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror looked the same. 19. Scared. Trying to pretend she wasn't. Downstairs, she followed the scent of coffee to a kitchen that belonged in a restaurant. Marble counters, professional appliances, an island that could seat 8. Mrs. Choi stood at the stove, cooking something that smelled like home. Good morning, the older woman said cheerfully. I made breakfast. Mr. Kong left hours ago. He has a meeting in Incheon. He's gone. Relief and something else, disappointment. Ward in Ji-yoon's chest. He usually leaves by 5. Works constantly. Mrs. Choi set a plate before her. Rice, grilled fish, kimchi soup. Traditional Korean breakfast. Eat. You barely had anything yesterday. Ji-yoon ate because she didn't know what else to do. The food was perfect, and it made her want to cry. Mrs. Choi, she said carefully, what kind of man is he? Really, the housekeeper considered this. Complicated. Dangerous, yes, you can't run what he runs without being dangerous. But not cruel. Not without reason. She poured Ji-yoon more coffee. His father was a monster. Min-suk. He's trying to be something different. I think. Why did he marry me? You'd have to ask him that. But Min-suk wasn't there to ask. Ji-yoon spent the day exploring the mansion, each room more beautiful and impersonal than the last. A library with books in Korean, English, Japanese. A home gym with equipment she didn't know how to use. A media room. A wine cellar. Everything pristine. Everything untouched. She found his wing. The doors were closed but not locked. She didn't open them. It felt like crossing a line she wasn't ready to cross. That evening, she heard the front door open. Male voices, Min-suk and someone else. Ji-yoon stayed in her room. Door opened just enough to hear. Shipping route secured. The payment cleared. Good. Double the security on the next run. Min-suk's voice, calm and commanding. Yes, sir. Also, your uncle called. About the wedding. Let me guess. He's offended. Enraged, actually. Said you disrespected him in front of everyone. A pause. My uncle forgets who's in charge. Remind him. Already done. Footsteps. They were moving through the house. Ji-yoon held her breath. And your wife? She's adjusting. Is that what we're calling it? The other man's voice held amusement. You gave her 8 billion won and expect her to just. I gave her a choice. Min-suk's voice dropped, dangerous. Something no one else did. What she does with it is her decision. Silence. Then, you're playing a dangerous game, boss. I know. The voices faded. Ji-yoon sat back, mind racing. A choice. He'd said it again. But what choice? Stay in a gilded cage, or leave with blood money. What kind of choice was that? She didn't sleep well that night. 3 days passed in careful avoidance. Min-suk left early, returned late. They crossed paths once, in the hallway, both surprised. He'd nodded, stepped aside to let her pass, said nothing. She'd mumbled something about the weather and fled to her room like a coward. On the fourth morning, she woke at dawn and couldn't fall back asleep. She pulled on a robe and wandered downstairs, drawn to the wall of windows facing east. The sun was rising over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Beautiful, isn't it? Ji-yoon spun. Min-suk stood in the doorway to the terrace, coffee cup in hand, dressed in workout clothes. He must have been in the gym. I didn't know you were here, she said. I'm usually not. Insomnia. He gestured to the terrace. Join me. It wasn't quite a question, but it wasn't quite a command either. Ji-yoon nodded, followed him outside. The morning air was crisp, autumn settling into winter. They stood at the railing, Seoul spread before them, and for a long moment neither spoke. I have questions, Ji-yoon said finally. I told you that you would. Why did you give me all of that? The penthouse, the money, the restraining orders? Why give me freedom if you needed to marry me? Min-suk drank his coffee, considering. Your uncle owed me 2 billion won. He couldn't pay, so he offered you instead. Like you were a thing he owned. His jaw tightened. I needed a wife. For business reasons, legitimacy, political connections, the appearance of stability. An arranged marriage isn't uncommon in our world. So you said yes. I said I'd consider it. I looked into your family. Found out you had no say in the arrangement. That you'd been traded before. Ji-yoon's breath caught. He knew about that. About when she was 17, when her uncle had tried to marry her off to a business partner. Her father had stopped it then. But her father was dead now. I remember being trapped once, Min-suk continued quietly. Different circumstances, but I remember having no choices. No way out. He looked at her directly for the first time since they'd married. So I gave you what I wished someone had given me. Options. But you still married me. I still needed a wife. And you needed a way out from your family. His expression didn't change. This way we both got something. You got freedom. I got legitimacy. Fair trade. Ji-yoon's hands tightened on the railing. Nothing about this is fair. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's better than the alternative. Which was? Your uncle's selling you to someone who wouldn't give you a choice at all. The words hung in the morning air. Ji-yoon thought about her uncle's gambling friends, the men who'd looked at her like merchandise. Min-suk was right. It could have been worse. It was a low bar, but it was true. What happens now? She asked. That's up to you. You have the penthouse. You can move there if you want. The money is yours to do with as you please. The marriage is legal, but... He paused. I won't demand anything from you. You're free to live your life. And if I want a divorce? Something flickered in his eyes. Then we'll handle it. Though I'd prefer you wait at least a year. For appearances. A year. 12 months of this strange limbo. Why are you being so reasonable? Ji-yoon asked. Everyone says you're dangerous. Ruthless. I am. No hesitation. But you're not my enemy. You're just someone who got caught in the same trap I did. Other people's ambitions. He finished his coffee. I have to go. Meeting in Gangnam at 8. Mrs. Choi will get you whatever you need. He left her on the terrace, alone with the sunrise and more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Kang Min-suk was not the monster she'd expected, which somehow made everything more complicated. The phone call came on the 8th day. Ji-yoon had settled into a strange routine. Mornings on the terrace with coffee, afternoons exploring Seoul with Mrs. Choi as her unofficial guide, evenings reading in the library while Min-suk worked in his office on the other side of the house. They were polite strangers sharing expensive real estate. Civil, careful. Safe. Then her mother called. Ji-yoon. Her mother's voice trembled. Please. Your uncle wants to talk to you. Ji-yoon's hand tightened on the phone. The restraining order. He just wants to apologize. To explain. You have to understand, we had no choice. The debt. You had a choice. Ji-yoon's voice came out colder than she intended. You chose him over me. Don't be dramatic. Your husband paid well for you. The least you can do is be reasonable. Ji-yoon hung up. Stared at the phone. Her hands were shaking. Problem. She jumped. Min-suk stood in the doorway, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He must have just gotten home. My mother. Ji-yoon set the phone down like it might bite her. She wants me to talk to my uncle. Says he wants to apologize. Min-suk's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. He doesn't want to apologize. He wants to renegotiate. Renegotiate what? The terms. He thought the marriage would give him access to my resources. protection, money. Min Suk crossed to the bar, poured himself whiskey. When he realized you got everything instead of him, he got creative. Ji-yoon's stomach twisted. So this isn't about me at all. It never was. He took a drink. They'll keep trying. Your family. They'll use guilt, obligation, tradition, whatever works. You need to decide now how you want to handle it. What do you mean? I can make them stop permanently. One word, and they'll never contact you again. His tone was matter of fact. But that's a permanent solution. Once I do it, there's no going back. Ji-yoon thought about her mother's voice, her aunt's laughter at the wedding, her uncle's hand on her shoulder, steering her toward this life. Then she thought about the childhood before the debt, before her father died, before gambling took over, before she became currency. No, she said quietly. Not yet. Just, can you have someone screen my calls? Min Suk nodded. I'll assign someone tomorrow. He studied her. For what it's worth, you don't owe them anything. Not guilt. Not explanations. Nothing. They're my family. Family doesn't sell you. The words hung in the air, brutal and true. Min Suk finished his drink, set the glass down with deliberate care. I have a lawyer I trust. She handles sensitive cases, abusive families, restraining orders, the kind of things that require discretion. I'll have her contact you. You don't have to use her, but the option's there. Thank you, Ji-yoon whispered. He nodded once and left. Ji-yoon sat alone in the library, staring at her silent phone. She'd never felt more alone, or more strangely protected. The charity gala was Min Suk's idea. You need to be seen, he'd said over breakfast 3 days after the phone call. As my wife. People are talking, speculating. The longer you hide, the worse the rumors get. What kind of rumors? That I'm keeping you prisoner. That you tried to run. That the marriage is fake. He drank his coffee. A public appearance stops all of that. Ji-yoon's stomach nodded. I'm not ready. You don't have to be ready. You just have to show up. His tone softened slightly. I'll be with you the entire time. If it gets too much, we leave. So here she was, in a hotel ballroom that cost more per night than most people earned in a year, wearing a designer gown that Mrs. Choi had helped her choose. Black silk, elegant, expensive. Her hair was up, makeup perfect, diamond earrings that Min Suk had given her without ceremony or explanation. She looked like she belonged. She felt like an imposter. Min Suk appeared beside her, devastating in a black tuxedo. Ready? No. His mouth quirked, almost a smile. Honest. I appreciate that. He offered his arm. Stay close. Follow my lead. And remember, you're not here to apologize for existing. They entered together. The ballroom was full of Seoul's elite. Old money families in traditional hanbok, new money in designer labels, politicians and business titans, and people who wielded power like weapons. A string quartet played. Champagne flowed. Conversations paused as Min Suk and Ji-yoon passed. The whispers started immediately. So young. Heard he bought her. Uncle's gambling debt. Probably just a trophy. Min Suk's hand settled at the small of her back, steady and warm. Not possessive. Protective. They moved through the crowd like they belonged together. And maybe they did. Maybe this was what partnership looked like in his world. Two people presenting a united front against judgment. An older woman in Chanel approached, smile sharp. Mr. Kong. How lovely to see you. And this must be your wife. The pause before wife was deliberate. Mrs. Han, Min Suk said smoothly. May I introduce Lee Ji-yoon? My wife. No pause. No hesitation. Mrs. Han's smile tightened. So young. How are you finding married life, dear? Educational, Ji-yoon said, surprising herself. I'm sure. Mrs. Han sipped her champagne. Tell me, how does it feel to be bought? The words landed like a slap. Around them, conversations stopped. Everyone was listening now. Ji-yoon's face burned. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Then Min Suk moved. Not fast, not violent. Just shifted his weight, placed himself slightly between Ji-yoon and Mrs. Han. His expression didn't change, but the temperature in the immediate area seemed to drop. Mrs. Han, he said quietly, I'm going to assume you misspoke. That you didn't just insult my wife at a charity event in front of half of Seoul's business community. Mrs. Han paled. I didn't mean. Because if you did mean it, we'd have a problem. And I'd hate for your husband's construction contracts to suddenly face complications. Min Suk's smile was razor-thin. Building permits can be so unpredictable. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Mrs. Han's champagne glass trembled. I apologize, she stammered. I spoke out of turn. You did. Min-suk turned to Ji-yoon. Shall we get some air? Ji-yoon nodded, mute. They walked away from the stunned crowd, Min-suk's hand still at her back, guiding her toward the terrace. Outside, Seoul glittered below. Ji-yoon gulped the cold air, trying not to shake. I'm sorry, Min-suk said. She looked at him, surprised. For what? You defended me. For putting you in that position at all. I knew they'd be cruel. I should have prepared you better. How do you prepare for someone asking how it feels to be bought? Ji-yoon's voice cracked. Is that what everyone thinks? That I'm just merchandise you acquired? Some do. They're wrong. Are they? She turned to face him fully. You paid my uncle's debt. You married me. You gave me things. How is that different from? Because you can leave. Min-suk's intensity startled her. You have money property options. You stay because you choose to, not because I'm forcing you. That's the difference. But I'm still here because of a transaction. We're all here because of transactions. He leaned against the railing. Every marriage in that ballroom started as a negotiation, money, status, alliance. At least ours is honest about it. Ji-yoon studied him. The scar on his jaw. The careful way he held himself. The man everyone called the Reaper, who'd threatened a society matron over champagne to protect his wife's dignity. Why did you really marry me? She asked. The truth this time. Min-suk was quiet for a long moment. My sister, he finally said. Ji-yoon. She was 2 years younger than you are now, when she was married off to a business partner of my father's. Political alliance. She had no choice, no way out. Ji-yoon's breath caught. What happened? He was cruel. Beat her. Controlled everything. What she wore, who she spoke to, where she went. She called me once, crying, begging me to help her. I was 22, still under my father's control. He said it was business. That she'd adjust. Min-suk. She died 3 months later. Made it look like suicide. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands gripped the railing hard enough that his knuckles went white. I knew better, but I couldn't prove it. And by the time I inherited everything, by the time I had the power to do something. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I'm sorry, Ji-yoon whispered. When your uncle came to me with his proposal, all I could see was Ji-yoon. Another girl being traded like property. Another man who'd use her however he wanted. He looked at her directly. I couldn't save my sister, but I could give you what I wish someone had given her. A choice. Freedom. A way out. Tears burned Ji-yoon's eyes. Not for herself. For him. For the girl he'd lost. For the guilt he carried. You're a good man, Kang Min-suk. He huffed softly. The people in that ballroom would disagree. The people in that ballroom don't know you. And you do. Ji-yoon considered. I'm starting to. Something passed between them then. Understanding. Recognition. 2 people who'd both been trapped, both been powerless, finding something like solidarity in the space between their separate wings. Min-suk's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. We need to go. Something's come up. They left the gala early, whispers following them out. 2 weeks slid past. The gala incident made the society pages. Speculation about Min-suk's mysterious young wife, questions about the marriage, carefully worded gossip. Ji-yoon ignored it. She had bigger concerns. She was bored. The mansion was beautiful. Seoul was fascinating. But she'd spent 4 years working toward a business degree. And now she had nothing to do but read and walk and wait for her husband to come home from work she wasn't part of. One morning, she found Min-suk in his office, a rare occurrence, since he usually left before dawn. Do you have a minute? She asked. He looked up from his laptop. Of course. Come in. Ji-yoon entered the space she'd never seen before. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. A desk that probably cost more than a car. Bookshelves filled with legal texts, business journals, and surprisingly fiction. What can I do for you? Min-suk asked. Tell me about your business. The legitimate side. His eyebrow rose. Why? Because I have a degree in business management that I spent 4 years earning, and I'm slowly losing my mind with nothing to do. She crossed her arms. You said I was your partner. Let me be one. Min-suk leaned back, considering. My legitimate holdings are extensive. Real estate development. Mostly commercial properties in Gangnam and Hongdae. A chain of high-end nightclubs. Tech investments. Import-export. He paused. What interests you? Show me the portfolios. Let me see the numbers. He studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled up files on his computer, turned the screen toward her. These are the Q3 reports for the real estate division. Ji-yoon scanned the documents. Revenue streams, expenses, profit margins. It was complex, multi-layered, and she loved it immediately. Your occupancy rate in Gangnam is lower than industry standard. The properties are premium. We're selective about tenants. You're leaving money on the table. She pointed to a line item. And your maintenance costs are too high. You're overpaying for services. Min-suk's expression shifted. Interest flickered. You can see that from a quarterly report? I can see that you need better accountants. Ji-yoon pulled up another page. Here. And here. You're being overcharged in at least 3 categories. Interesting. He stood, came around the desk. What else? They spent the next 2 hours going through reports. Ji-yoon caught inefficiencies, questioned expenses, suggested restructuring. Min-suk listened, asked questions, took notes. By the time Mrs. Choi brought lunch, they'd filled 3 legal pads. You're good at this, Min-suk said, something like respect in his voice. I told you. I didn't spend 4 years in university to plan charity galas. Ji-yoon felt more alive than she had in weeks. Can I help? Really help? Yes. No hesitation. I'll have my team send you full access to the legitimate holdings. You review everything, tell me what you see. Just like that. Just like that. He smiled. A real smile, not the careful half-expressions she usually saw. Welcome to the company, Mrs. Kong. The next 3 weeks transformed everything. Ji-yoon dove into the business with an intensity that surprised both of them. She found inefficiencies, renegotiated contracts, identified opportunities. Min-suk's team was skeptical at first. This 19-year-old girl their boss had married, but she proved herself quickly. They started meeting daily. Conference room sessions where she presented findings and he implemented changes. The holdings grew more profitable. The business ran smoother. And somewhere in the spreadsheets and strategy sessions, something shifted between them. They talked more. Not just about work, about everything. Books, music, Seoul's best coffee shops, childhood memories. Min-suk told her about growing up in his father's shadow, learning the business from the inside. Ji-yoon told him about her father, about the plans she'd had before debt swallowed everything. They stopped being strangers sharing a house. They started being something else. The attack came on a Thursday. Ji-yoon was in her room, reviewing acquisition proposals, when gunfire erupted outside. Loud, close, terrifying. She froze, laptop sliding from her lap. More gunfire. Shouting in Korean. Breaking glass. The door burst open. Min-suk, suit jacket gone, gun in his hand. Are you hurt? No, what's happening? Rival gang. Message, not assassination. He crossed to her, grabbed her arm. Not rough, but urgent. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me or Mrs. Choi. Min-suk, I have to handle this. He stopped, looked at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw real fear in his eyes. You're safe. I promise. Just stay here. Then he was gone. Ji-yoon locked the door with shaking hands. Pressed her back against it. Listened to the chaos below. Shouting, more gunfire than silence. Terrible silence. She waited. 10 minutes. 20. Her phone buzzed. Min-suk, it's handled. Stay put until I come for you. An hour later, he knocked. Ji-yoon. It's me. She unlocked the door. He stood there, tie gone, shirt spattered with something she didn't want to identify. Exhausted. Angry. Relieved. Are you okay? He asked. Are you okay? I'm fine. Security handled it. They won't try again. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. This is the world I live in. The world you're in now because of me. What did they want? To send a message. They're unhappy about a territory dispute. He looked at her. Really looked at her. You should go to the penthouse. It's safer there. Less connected to me. No. Ji-yoon. No. She stepped closer. You gave me a choice, remember? I'm choosing to stay. Why? His voice cracked slightly. Why would you choose this? Because somewhere between the wedding and the gala and the spreadsheets and the sunrise conversations, she'd stopped being afraid of him. Because when he'd burst into her room, his first thought had been her safety. Because he looked at her like she mattered. Because she was falling in love with him, and that terrified her more than any gunfire. Because I'm not ready to leave, she said simply. Min-suk stared at her. Then he did something he'd never done before. He reached out, pulled her into his arms. Held her. Just held her. Ji-yoon let herself sink into the embrace. He smelled like gunpowder and expensive cologne. His heart hammered against her ear. "Stay," he whispered. "Please stay. I'm not going anywhere." They stood there, two people clinging to each other in the aftermath of violence, and Ji-yoon knew everything had changed. The lawyer arrived 3 days later. Ms. Park was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than Ji-yoon's first car. She sat across from Ji-yoon in the library, Min-suk notably absent. "This is your meeting," he'd said. "Mr. Kong asked me to review your options," Ms. Park said. "You have several, Mrs. Kong. The first, what are my options for divorce?" Ms. Park didn't blink. "Direct. I appreciate that." She pulled out documents. "Mr. Kong signed a prenuptial agreement that heavily favors you. In the event of divorce, you keep everything given to you. The penthouse, the accounts, all of it. No strings. No waiting period beyond the standard 6 months." Ji-yoon's heart hammered. He signed away everything. Everything related to you. He was very specific. Ms. Park slid papers across the table. "These are the divorce documents. Pre-approved. You just need to sign and file them. He's already signed his portion." Ji-yoon stared at the papers. Her name next to his. A marriage ended with a signature. "Is there anything else you need?" Ms. Park asked. "No. Thank you." After the lawyer left, Ji-yoon sat alone with the documents. She could leave. Right now. Walk away from this strange marriage with millions of won and complete freedom. She should want that. She should sign the papers and go. Instead, she carried them to her room, locked them in her safe, and left them unsigned. That night, she couldn't sleep. She found herself wandering downstairs, drawn by a light in Min-suk's office. The door was open. He sat at his desk, tie loosened, exhaustion written across his face. "Can't sleep?" he asked when he saw her. "Not tonight." She hesitated at the threshold. "Can I come in?" "Always." She entered, sat in the chair across from him. "Ms. Park came today." "I know. She showed me the divorce papers." Min-suk's expression didn't change, but his hands stilled on his keyboard. "And? You already signed them. Months ago. Before the wedding." He met her eyes. "I told you, you're free to go." "I meant it." "Why?" Her voice broke. "Why give me all of this? Why make it so easy for me to leave?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because no one should be trapped. Not by debt, not by obligation, not by marriage." He stood, came around the desk, but kept his distance. "I married you because I needed a wife. But I won't keep you if you don't want to be here." "What if I do want to be here?" The question hung in the air between them. "Do you?" Min-suk asked quietly. Ji-yoon stood, closed the distance between them. "The divorce papers are in my safe. And signed." "Why?" "Because somewhere between you defending me at that gala and bursting into my room terrified I was hurt." She took a breath. "I fell in love with you." Min-suk's eyes widened. "Ji-yoon, I know it's complicated. I know this started as a transaction. But it's not that anymore. Not for me." She looked up at him. "Is it still that for you?" "No." His voice was rough. "God, no. I've been in love with you since you stood up to Mrs. Han. Since you locked those divorce papers away instead of using them. Since you chose to stay after the attack when anyone sensible would have run." He cupped her face in his hands, and for the first time since they'd met, there was no distance between them. No careful politeness. Just two people who'd found each other in the worst possible way and made something real out of it. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. Ji-yoon answered by closing the distance. The kiss was gentle, tentative, perfect. When they broke apart, they were both smiling. "So we're doing this?" Min-suk asked. "Really doing this?" "Really doing this," Ji-yoon confirmed. He pulled her close, and she let herself sink into his arms. Through the window, Seoul glittered, indifferent to two people choosing each other. But they'd made their choice. And for the first time since this all began, it felt right. 6 months later, everything had changed. Ji-yoon stood in the conference room of Kong Holdings, presenting Q4 projections to the board. She was 20 now, confident in tailored business attire, her analysis sharp and thorough. The board members, skeptical at first, now listened intently. Min-suk sat at the head of the table, watching her with barely concealed pride. After the meeting, they walked to the parking garage together. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining naturally. "You're terrifying," he said. "I learned from the best. They're going to vote you in as COO next quarter." "Good." She grinned. "Someone needs to fix the mess your accountants made." He laughed, pulled her close. 6 months ago, she'd have flinched. Now she leaned into him naturally. That evening, they stood at the construction site in her old neighborhood. The building was nearly finished, 3 stories, modern design, large windows. A sign out front read, Ji-Yun Center. Resources for financial independence. She would have liked this, Min-suk said quietly. She would have been proud of you. Ji-Yun squeezed his hand. You saved people, Min-suk. Women who needed a way out. You gave them what you couldn't give her. We gave them, he corrected. This was your idea. Our idea. They stood together, watching the sunset paint Seoul in shades of gold. Tomorrow, the center would open. Tomorrow, the press conference would announce her official role in the company. Tomorrow, they'd face the world as true partners. But tonight, they just stood together. Do you ever think about that first night? Ji-Yoon asked. When you gave me those papers? Every day. Min-suk turned to face her. Best investment I ever made. She laughed. I'm not an investment. No. He kissed her forehead. You're everything else. They drove home together, to the mansion that was no longer a cage but a home. To separate wings that had become shared spaces. To a life they'd built from a transaction forced on both of them. The city that had watched her be sold watched her choose to stay. And that made all the difference.